Thank you very much for waiting. And we would now like to start the final item on the program of this year's annual meeting, the closing session. First, I would like to invite Mr. Ishizuka Hiroaki, Chairman of New Energy and Industrial Technology Development Organization, to give an address on behalf of the host of ICEF. Mr. Ishizuka, if you please.
Good evening or good morning. I'm Hiroaki Ishizuka, Chairman of NEDO. On behalf of the organizers, please allow me to say a few words to open the final session of the ICEF 7th Annual Meeting. The 7th Annual Meeting is the first to be held online due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to offer my sincere thanks to all participants joining the discussions remotely or in person. And I appreciate the hard work of our staff to get this new style of meeting off the ground. I would also like to thank all the viewers across the world and express my deep gratitude to the ICEF Steering Committee members for their tremendous work, especially the chair, Mr. Nobuo Tanaka. NEDO is Japan's largest funding agency for technology development and has two key missions: addressing energy and environmental programs and producing innovative industrial technologies. We bring together the excellence of private companies, universities, and the public research institute to research, develop, and demonstrate cutting-edge technologies and create innovations. We are honored to be a host of ICEF together with the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry, Japan. The COVID-19 pandemic has imposed unprecedented challenges on us all, and the climate change initiatives are not an exception. I appreciate the leadership of Tanaka-san to COVID-19 pandemic and the gender-related perspectives to the theme of this year's annual meeting. Rich discussions in respective sessions on these and many other topics have taken place. To achieve beyond zero emissions, which is the key theme of this year's annual meeting, it is not sufficient only to disseminate existing low-carbon technologies. Instead, we need to develop and introduce innovative technologies and promote innovation in all areas of society. Climate change discussions tend to focus on immediate short-term targets. However, there is a need to move beyond that and consider solutions based on the latest technologies that may realize drastic emission reductions or even negative emissions. From this perspective, the discussions at ICEF were extremely fruitful. In addition to ICEF, a series of international conferences is scheduled this week and next here in Japan, namely RD20, the TCFD Summit, the International Conference on Carbon Recycling, and the Hydrogen Energy Ministerial Meeting. NEDO will continue to collaborate with both domestic and international partners to ensure that our messages get global exposure. Before closing, let me introduce the contents of this session. As a result of the 7th annual meeting, 3 items will be presented in the following order: the top 10 innovations, the ICEF roadmap on biomass carbon renewable and storage, and the ICEF Steering Committee statement. Then, ICEF Steering Committee Chair, Mr. Nobuo Tanaka, will summarize this year's annual meeting. Please enjoy their presentations until the very end. Please note that all sessions of this year's annual meeting are recorded and will be available on the ICEF website in a few weeks. Please check the website if you missed any of the sessions. This concludes my remarks. I hope we can overcome the COVID-19 pandemic and meet in person here in Tokyo next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ishizuka. And now we would like to ask Dr. Yasui Itaru, a member of the ICEF Steering Committee and honorary advisor of National Institute of Technology and Evaluation, emeritus professor of the University of Tokyo, and honorary advisor of Institute for Promoting Sustainable Societies, to present the ICEF Top 10 Innovations. Now, Dr. Yasui, if you please.
Okay, thank you. Is it okay? Well, thank you very much for introduction. And I'd like to report the result of top 10 innovations. The first slide, please. Okay, so next one. So top 10 innovation, we started the beginning of ICEF. But ICEF, that I means innovation. So innovation is very much important for the future. So we have two categories, and the category A is a rather long innovation, so and maybe useful by the year of 2050. But the category B is a rather short, and probably we can utilize that by the age of 2030 or so. And this is the result of ICEF 2020 top 10 innovations. And so in the category A, 4 items, A2, A4, A6, and A7 were selected. And from category B, 6 were selected. Okay, I'd like to introduce each from category A. And okay, this is a long-term research and development. And the first one is something like this, and this is new battery consisting of sodium ion. And of course, now everybody knows that the lithium is most common element to be used for batteries. But if we check the price, lithium is expensive. So if we can change and to utilize sodium ion, it's a very economically important thing. And the problem was a lifetime, but they extended the lifetime, it looked like so. And so the next one is, okay. Next, go back. Okay. So next one is a new method to convert CO2 to methane and a lower temperature. If it is okay to do that, so we can use more energy. So using say methane, and so the key point is that they invented new type of so here's written here, but the new kind of combination of two metals, ruthenium and cerium oxide. So this is a catalyst. And the next one is so direct solar to hydrogen production process. And they say that the efficiency, solar to hydrogen conversion efficiency, over 17% was realized. I think it's very high and probably useful for in the future. And the next one is A7, and they realized the drastic increase in solar cell output because of using completely new, say, mechanisms. That they try to produce 2 electrons out of 1 photon. So, and they say they will increase a theoretical maximum. Now, 29.1% is normal photocells, but probably they can So they can make it up to 35% maximum. So this is the end of A category, and the category B is innovation by 2030, and this is the first one, and the world highest efficiency fuel cell for residential use, and so many Japanese companies collaborated to realize this, but the efficiency reached 55%. It's very high, I think, and highest in the world, they say. So probably good commercial products, I think. And next one is number B3, and this is world first liquefied hydrogen carrier, and so that's ship. And of course, in the long future, probably we have to depend on the hydrogen. And especially in Japan, we have to import hydrogen from somewhere. So how to carry hydrogen? This is probably the answer. Okay, the next one is concrete. And concrete, to make concrete, we have to emit so much carbon dioxide. But this concrete absorbs CO2. And so probably we can reduce CO2 emission in total, they say so. And so, okay, so reduce their carbon print up to 70%, they say. Okay, so next one is some voltage switch gear. And for this kind of high voltage handling machine, for we have to use up to now F6S sulfur and F fluorine, and F6 means 6 atoms. So this is for insulation very effective, but now they can use pure air instead of SO6. So I think it's big advancement. Okay, the next one is future fuel capability of shipping and the energy sector. So they use no ordinary carbon compound, but they use ammonia. And they succeeded in this trial. And so they say that they can reduce greenhouse emissions, and so probably, but ammonia so smells bad, so probably handling may be difficult. Okay, and this is the last one, and that the new technology of changing CO2 to mineral in concrete, the similar one already there, but so I think concrete emits CO2 must be changed in the near future. So I think it's welcome. Now we have several new trials, and that's the end of this is the 10th one, and this is a conclusion that probably to enhance innovation in near future is very much important for human being if we realize cooler Earth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Yasui. And next, Mr. David Sandalow will present his remarks on the ICEF roadmap in a video message entrusted to us. Mr. Sandalow is a member of the ICEF Steering Committee and inaugural fellow of Center on Global Energy Policy at Columbia University.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations on yet another very successful ICEF conference. The dialogue has been fascinating, filled with important information and incredible experts on the issues that are most important with respect to the clean energy transition and fighting climate change. I'm going to talk about the ICEF Innovation Roadmap Project. which has two goals: to use the ICEF platform to help promote the development and deployment of clean energy technologies, and to promote global awareness of the ICEF conference. In the past half dozen years, we've now produced more than a half a dozen ICEF innovation roadmaps on topics ranging from solar and storage to carbon dioxide utilization to industrial heat decarbonization and more. And this year, we took on a challenging topic: biomass carbon removal and storage. The use of biomass to take carbon out of the atmosphere and store it underground or in long-lived products to help get to net zero emissions. We started out to write a roadmap on bioenergy with carbon capture and storage, or BECCS. That's been part of the climate dialogue for decades, and BECCS plays an important role in many integrated assessment models that evaluate pathways towards deep decarbonization. But after analysis, we concluded that biomass can be used to capture and store carbon dioxide without energy production, and that the carbon removal value of the biomass may exceed its energy value. And therefore, the focus on energy in the term BECCS struck us as not best. And therefore, we propose a new name: biomass carbon removal and storage. Biomass carbon removal and storage. In English, we propose the acronym BIKERS. We also found that using biomass for carbon capture and storage, although it has potential to contribute to climate mitigation, it also has risks. It can potentially adversely impact food security. It can adversely impact rural livelihoods. It can hurt ecosystems. And indirect land use change can mitigate or even eliminate the carbon or climate benefits of BIKERS projects. And these are not technical issues, but they are very important social, operational, and policy issues. And so we propose 3 guiding principles for using biomass to remove carbon and store it in over the long term. First principle is do no harm. We should not be pursuing projects that hurt biodiversity conservation, food security, other important values in order to mitigate the climate change. Second, social acceptability is key. This is really essential that people are supportive of this. And third, that technology development should reflect social priorities. So we define biomass carbon removal and storage, or BIKERS, as a process that uses biomass to remove CO2 from the atmosphere, that stores CO2 underground or in long-lived products, and that does no damage to and ideally promotes food security, rural livelihoods, biodiversity conservation, and other important values. Here's our table of contents. It's got 10 chapters. I won't take you through each one of them. You can download this manuscript, which runs about 80 pages, from the ICEF website. It's available now, and it's open for comment all month. We're collecting comments until the end of the month and then finalizing it for release in December. Here are some of our key messages. First, biomass carbon removal and storage could deliver 2.5 to 5 gigatons per year CO2 removal and storage by mid-century. The biggest issues to be addressed, as I said a moment ago, are institutional and political. They're not technical. Waste can be an attractive initial biomass source. Using timber or dedicated energy crops, which has gotten a lot of attention, can create risks. We're going to need widespread adoption of sustainable biomass standards to address these risks. Technologies are basically available now, and we recommend a core principle: do no harm. That's a very quick tour through this year's roadmap. I hope you'll download it, read it, send us comments, and many thanks to everybody who worked so hard on this conference, from my fellow steering committee members to the whole team at Medi and NITO and beyond that put so much into this great conference. Congratulations. Thanks so much, and look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you very much for your attention. And now we would like to ask Dr. Yamaji Kenji, a member of the ICEF Steering Committee and Senior Vice President and Director General of Research Institute of Innovative Technology for the Earth, and Professor Emeritus of the University of Tokyo, to present the ICEF statement. Mr. Yamaji, if you please.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Steering Committee of ICEF had successfully finalized the ICEF2020 statement after heated discussions among members. I am pleased to report the highlights of the statement, and the full text of the statement will be uploaded on the homepage of ICEF2020 just after this closing session. I need slides. Okay. Okay. In the beginning, Tokyo Beyond Zero Week is mentioned. 6 conferences, including ICEF, are held in this Tokyo Beyond Zero Week, I mean this week, to consider all possible pathways to accelerate a virtuous cycle of environment and growth. First part, the beginning part is a preamble. More than 1,300 people from 80 countries and regions participated in ICEF 2020. And the theme of this year's forum was Action Towards Beyond Zero Emission Society in light of COVID-19, with a focus on gender equality. And second part of the statement is a society changing significantly through the unprecedented situations. COVID-19 has made us aware of how daunting this 1.5 degree C pathways is. And we should once again clearly recognize and underline the utmost importance of innovation in addressing climate change. Part 2 continues. The Japanese government formulated Environment Innovation Strategy. The Environment Innovation Strategy aims to establish innovative technologies that enable the reduction of global greenhouse gas emissions toward carbon neutral and further reduction of the accumulated atmospheric carbon dioxide level beyond zero by 2050. And part 2 continues. There is no doubt that women's participation will play a huge role in promotion of innovations. Climate change is not gender neutral. The higher the ratio of female participation, the greater the performance in addressing climate change. We should commit to the development of mentoring networks suitable for women's skills and the promotion of education for women in developing countries. And this is the last part of the second part, Society of Changing Significantly Through the Unprecedented Situation. Finance for innovation matters. Enhanced transparency is expected to improve the market and investment environment. As for COVID-19 recovery, it is necessary to promote investment for suitable structural transformation in the energy system and other transformative infrastructure. Third part is discussions and findings from the concurrent sessions. First, in the area of energy transformation, hydrogen is an indispensable energy carrier to decarbonize or lower carbon emission in energy consumption. When countries plan sustainable recovery package for COVID-19, they should focus on research, development, demonstration, and deployment of hydrogen infrastructure. Energy transformation area continues. So renewable energy is growing year by year. Government and power companies will need to adapt flexibly to new environments by adopting digital technology and infrastructure development, in particular in energy end use. And with regard to nuclear power, governments should establish long-term policies and R&D guidelines and provide support to companies, including ventures, for accelerated development while ensuring safety. Second area is transportation. Changes in consumer behavior give birth to new services and require the development of new technologies to curb emissions in the supply chains. Measures should be in place to restore passengers' confidence in public transport through, first, providing information and data to passengers on the operation of public transport, and second, encouraging strategies for peak shaving in order to satisfy the rules for social distancing. And the third area is the industry. Carbon recycling is an umbrella concept. Life cycle analysis of the greenhouse gas emission associated with any product made from recycled carbon is especially important. Much more R&D and policy support is needed. And we need to enhance circular economy implementation to realize sustainable consumption trends and lifestyle. The model of circular economy shall be established. Fourth area is cross-sectoral. The ocean has enormous potential to mitigate environmental issues. The offshore wind market, in particular, has been growing rapidly. For further acceleration, market competition, public-private cooperation, and international cooperation will be key. The promotion of private finance, especially green equity, will be also key to achieve sustainable economic development in emerging countries. And the fifth area is on agriculture, forestry, and fisheries, and carbon sinks. A selection of production methods using low-emission technologies will be essential in achieving sustainable agriculture. Technologies to capture carbon dioxide released into the air, such as direct air capture, and either use of fixates that carbon dioxide are attracting attention. Greenhouse gas emission reduction in agriculture, forestry, and fisheries also need to be advanced. And this is the ending part of the statement. Action for Beyond Zero and expectation for women's participation. So virtuous cycle of environment and growth is essential when we tackle climate change. This remains the case even under the unprecedented situation caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The Environment Innovation Strategy is a comprehensive action plan for this concept. And the question is how we should implement it and make advances towards Beyond Zero. Industry, government, academia, and the investors must come together to facilitate research, development, and investment with lessons learned from this annual meeting, noting that women's participation will further accelerate our efforts. So last but not least, we made infographics for the ICEF2020. So ladies are leading various innovations, thus guiding to go downstairs to Beyond Zero. Okay, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yamaji. And to conclude the program, we'd like to ask Mr. Tanaka Nobuo, Chair of the ICEF Steering Committee, to summarize ICEF 2020. Mr. Tanaka, if you please.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Especially I have to thank METI and NEDO for their great endeavor for today's, well, no, not today's main sessions, but more than a week of effort of organizing this web conference. More than 1,300 people from government, international organization, industry, and academia, and from approximately 80 countries and regions participated in this first ever online events. So this year's theme, as already mentioned many times, the action toward beyond zero emission society in light of COVID-19 with a focus on gender equality. To achieve beyond zero emission, all unconventional and nonlinear measures must be considered, and government leadership is must. The European decision on investment in hydrogen infrastructure through Green Deal and green stimulus is a very excellent example. Recent China's carbon neutrality by 2060 and California state's ban of new internal combustion engine vehicles by 2035 are also very interesting, stimulating examples. With such leaderships of reducing uncertainties by the governments, many private corporations can announce carbon neutral targets and invest for the decarbonized future without hesitation. This is a list of number of viewers of different sessions, plenaries, concurrent sessions, and roadmaps. For beyond zero emission, we need all technologies. And yet, hydrogen attracts the largest attention at this ICEF. It is an indispensable energy carrier to decarbonize or lower carbon emission in energy consumption. Hydrogen is in fact the common enabler of the energy transformation. Throughout its entire supply chain, we should drive technological development as well as policy making concerning production, storage, transportation, and utilization. We should also make substantial progress in international cooperation for deployment of hydrogen infrastructure on a global scale through concerted efforts of both public and private sectors. When countries plan trillions of dollars of sustainable recovery packages, or we call it green stimulus. There are lots of discussions about green stimulus, by the way, in many sessions in steering committee, etc., for COVID-19. And they should focus on research, development, demonstration, and deployment of hydrogen infrastructure, including storage and transport in relation to deployment of CCUS. Green hydrogen helps further deployment of renewables. Blue hydrogen helps decarbonizing fossil fuels with CCUS. 50 years ago, Japan had successfully started LNG, liquid natural gas business model for importing natural gas from Alaska with great success. But we may need to innovate this model by switching to transporting hydrogen instead of LNG. Roadmap session introduced a new concept, biomass carbon removal and storage, BICAS. David Sandalow explained very interestingly that this new concept replaces traditional BECCS, B-E-C-C-S. BICAS feedstocks are available for 2.5 to 5 gigaton of CO2 removal per year by 2050. This innovation must be seriously considered for the beyond zero emission. Dr. Yoshino, Japan's Nobel laureate last year, kindly presented ALDI-20 here today. I wish ICEF and ALDI-20 will cooperate on the bikers in the future. ICEF2020 infographics, as Yamaji sensei present, shows a lot of interesting and important messages. I read, for example, IEA, International Energy Agency, called for the 4 important technologies for sustainable future in its sustainable recovery plan. They are hydrogen, battery, CCUS, and small modular reactors, SMR. All of them are listed in this infographics. Another focus is gender equality. There are no men in the infographics. I urged that we should send a message. The leading role of women for beyond zero emission is more than clear. COVID-19 reminds us of justice. Black Lives Matters. Climate change and COVID-19 are not gender neutral, but women can change it by voting or taking up the leadership roles. I urge this year's ICEF to make half of the panelists being women. We almost achieved the targets by 47%. I found sessions more lively and interesting with more women panelists. I hope other Tokyo Beyond Zero Weeks conferences will do the same next year. Nuclear power and women was taken up, but it's a very political or sensitive subject. I thank Aja Kolhola for her courage to share her private thought change in favor of nuclear power to achieve beyond zero emission. There were other strong suggestions in the sessions that Japan should be the leader of the new advanced nuclear technology, including SMR, for the beyond zero emission, and thus overcoming the tragedy of the Fukushima accident. I hope that policymakers in Japan, as well as politicians, learn from Asia's courage. ALDI-20 should also take up nuclear. Chairman of NEDO, Ishizuka-san, gave me a lot of nice words at the beginning. I thank you very much. I return that kindness by telling my idea that NEDO should be given a role for developing advanced nuclear reactor system. Towards beyond zero, industry, government, academia, and investors must come together internationally to facilitate research and development and investment, which, with lessons learned from this annual meeting, noting that women participation will further accelerate our efforts. I believe that Japanese women, like us, can be empowered to bring Japan back to the growth through innovation. Men, like us, have a role. Men must help them by recognizing women's role and supporting their promotion to leadership positions in the future. Finally, on behalf of the steering committee, I like to thank the following organizations for supporting the ICEF 2020 this year. Ministry of Foreign Affairs Japan, Ministry of Education, Culture, Sport, Science, and Technology, Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries, and Ministry of Environment. And also, I thank other supporting organizations, IEA, International Energy Agency, Bloomberg New Energy Finance, and UNIDO. But Beyond all of these thanks, I thank moderators and panelists, and as well as all 1,300 participants by the web from the world. See you next year on October 6th and 7th, 2021. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tanaka. And this concludes the program of the Innovation for Cool Earth Forum 7th Annual Meeting. We hope this year's annual meeting had provided all attendees with a fruitful opportunity to learn about the latest technological innovations. And this year, since the meeting has been held virtually for the first time, I would like to ask all participants to give us your feedback to help us improve the next meeting. Please access the online survey on the ICEF virtual meeting website. And as also announced in the website and Mr. Tanaka mentioned, ICEF will hold its next annual meeting in 2021 on October 6th and 7th in Tokyo. Once again, thank you very much for your participation and hope to see you again next year.